should do our thing, right?
Yes, so I'm hitting record right now. So hello everyone, welcome back. If you weren't able to join us last week, we're so glad to have you with us today. Today is the second Family Finding microlearning in the series. Just a friendly reminder that this microlearning is going to be recorded. It actually just started. So that includes our screens, the chat box, and any private messages that you send. So that's something just to be thoughtful of. The intention of today's learning is to really dig into skills and strategies that can be used when meeting with already discovered family members and supports. So we discovered them last week, and this week we're going to figure out some strategies, practice some strategies to meet with them. Today will also be slightly more hands-on. So hopefully you were able to read the email that went out earlier to get some paper and utensils. But if you didn't see it and you aren't near any office supplies right now, that's no problem. I'm confident you'll still be able to take advantage of many learning opportunities today. Something to think about as we transition fully into learning mode right now, and I pass it over to Bob. You can see this. Everyone you will ever meet knows something that you don't. We have the opportunity to have a richer and more impactful learning experience because of all of you being here, taking the time to share your experiences and your thoughts today. And we can only do that through contributions. So virtual learning and virtual connection has been challenging in many ways, but two things we are able to do right now that we could have never done in person is everyone is able to share at the exact same time, and everyone can listen at the exact same time using the chat feature. It's really a little bit magical. So please consider contributing during this hour in a way and in an amount that feels comfortable to you, but please consider sharing your thoughts and experiences so we can all learn from you, selfishly. With all that being said, thank you so much to our visiting family finding expert, Bob. I'm gonna turn it over to you. Thanks so much for being here again with us, Bob.
Thanks, Krista. That was quite an introduction. That's the first kind of presentation I've been on where that sort of encouragement has been present, and it really struck me. The other thing that strikes me is I'm just on the first screen and I see everyone's faces, or almost everyone's faces. I was doing a presentation yesterday and none of the workforce has cameras on their laptops. So there's no pictures. And I had like about 35 people on who I've not met before. Or for the most part, I haven't met, and there's no pictures, and it's startling to train to an empty screen. I mean, talk about not being able to read the room, and you know what a challenge it is. And you know, for many of us, a year ago, that's what it was like. Many people did not have the ability to Zoom or do any of those sorts of virtual kinds of activities, and some of it, you know, was just forced by the pandemic. So you know, it's like the adjustments and the shifts we have had to make as a result of these presses. You know, we meet challenges, but you know, I've just taken it for granted that everyone's going to, you know, somebody's got a camera or webcam or something, and I got the whole workforce. It's a public agency. It's a large public agency. They don't have cameras. And, you know, it makes me wonder how you interfacing with your families and all that kind of stuff. They're actually giving Chromebooks to their families. They just don't have cameras on their own laptops. So, you know, there you go. Anyway, without any further ado, let me share my screen and kind of kick off the presentation there. All right, can everyone see that?
We can see foundations and family finding.
Yes, good.
It's
okay.
not in presentation view.
All right, so I'm going to go into presentation mode and swap. All right, so you should be able to see the full slide there. So let's just start off with just very quickly. This was a quick revision of the slide from the end of last week. The end of last week, I said, so identify a couple of things that you're going to try out by next Friday. So here we are, next Friday. So pop into the chat now. It's really hard for me to see the chat when I'm in presentation mode, but fortunately I have Krista there just to keep her eye on things. So pop your ideas into the chat about the things that you tried out since last time. If anyone wants to unmute and share, I'm going to give just a couple of minutes of this, then I'm going to dive into a particular activity. We're really going to spend our time focusing on one particular activity this time and dive into it a little bit. I usually would take about an hour and a half to train it. We don't obviously have that much time, but we can get through the materials and I can give you some additional supports to help with your learning and your application of it. So what are a couple of things that a question that you used from last time, or a strategy, anything you tried out with a family, or that one of your staff did as a result?
Another option, if you didn't have an opportunity to try anything out since last week, anything that you are thinking about and are hoping to try out in the future.
Elevator speeches. So Tanya, I'm curious about the elevator speeches. What helped with that, or what did you do?
So we have like kind of guidance is kind of a big word, but it's just like a sheet just to talk staff through, like making a call to somebody, what to think about. And on it, I heard some examples of some elevator speeches when I was here last week, and I just kind of paraphrased them and put them into that so that people could pick, one or all of them. You could read the whole, all three of them when they're making kind of these calls to family, just about why it's important to have family in kids' lives.
Yeah. I think it's been really helpful for folks to, when one of the training or a couple of trainings I was doing, we spent a couple of hours of people practicing their pitches because it was really new to them and it was sort of a foreign concept. And the trainer from the public agency said, "Oh, we need to spend some time." So we just kind of doubled down in there, and folks practiced their pitches, and it helped them get clearer about what they were doing, why they were doing it. So it just came across very natural. It didn't feel like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to say on a phone call. It was just like, here's who I am, and here's why I'm doing this, and in like 2 sentences, here's what we hope to accomplish. Bing, bang, boom, and they found like, oh, people are gravitating towards me, are much more curious, and maybe a little bit less hands off. So I think those kind of strategies really make sense. Yeah, the conversation in the car, absolutely. I imagine we've been having fewer conversations in cars over the last year, but boy, I can recall dozens of conversations when you don't have the intensity of the face-to-face, and people really start telling you stuff, including with my kids when they were young. They would start telling you stuff that you'd never get by kind of saying, tell me more about that, and it's like, no, I'm not doing that. Nice. Thanks, Sharon. All right, so it sounds like some things have been tried. I just encourage you as much as you can to apply the lessons or the opportunities that folks are sharing with each other or that we're bringing, because otherwise, in a couple of weeks, it's like, what training was that? What did I do? And it's like no time like the present. So let me dive into today's work. I'm going to share the Tree of Life. And the Tree of Life, I'm going to give you an article that was written by the person that adapted the Tree of Life to work with young people in foster care. His name's Mike. But the Tree of Life activity or exercise was originally created by Nkazela Ncube in South Africa, and David Denver of the Dulwich Center in Australia. And so basically, it was designed to use with vulnerable youth as a means to assist them in standing safe territories of identity before exploring the difficulties of their lives, which we call trauma-informed practice. At the time, it was, it's sort of like they tried to, this was working particularly with people that had been orphaned as a result of the AIDS epidemic in Southern Africa during that period of time. And they couldn't get to the grief work and the challenges that young people were facing. There was lots of avoidance and disruption and all that sort of thing. And they recognized they had to build safe territories of identity. And so by going through this activity and establishing those safe areas, they were then able to get more into the conversations without re-traumatizing young people. And they could focus on their response to trauma rather than the trauma. And I think that's one of the things that in child welfare, historically we haven't done well, is that we tend to identify people either by the worst things they've done in their life or the worst things that have happened to them in their life, as opposed to their responses to them. So our short stories about people are often about how they either victimized others or they were victimized. So it's this sexually abused kid, it's this neglected kid, it's this trafficked kid, it's and we tend to label folks around that and not spend very much time exploring their response to these things, because everyone's got a response, and the responses are often very heroic, even in very quiet and subtle ways. And so part of this activity is designed to get at the response to life stress. It doesn't necessarily have to be trauma. But to ultimately thicken and enrich our understanding of who the young person or the adult is, okay? So I'm gonna show you some examples. I'm not sure, on your screen how you're gonna do it. You're also gonna see some Post-its. If we were all doing this in the same shared space, everyone would construct a tree, and then I'd give you little sticky notes, and you'd go around in a gallery walk, and whenever you would see something that really resonated with you, you might pop a sticky note on there and say, this is why. And we try really encourage people to say something about other than, wow, cool, but to be able to connect it in some kind of ways and practice giving feedback and receiving it. And so that's often a really warm kind of experience for people to feel really validated in how they're connected with other people's trees. So as I'm showing you these trees, I'm going to activate this so you can see it. And again, depends upon the quality of your screen. I don't know how well you'll be able to see them. A couple of, like this tree here in particular, there's some, like really conceptual stuff and very personal and pretty artistic. You're talking to a person that got a D- in art in grade school. It's the only D I ever got in my life. So you have to really be talented to get D- in art. So art is not required in order to do this. Some people don't even draw trees. They'll do other sorts of things. There's no right or wrong way. And you have the comfort of mostly you're in your own space anyway. So don't worry about the art per se. It doesn't matter. What you'll, as you get comfortable with this, you'll get a sense of it's your tree. And that's all that really matters. So I'm going to take you through the activity, all right? And so if you have a piece of flip chart paper, great. If you have just a regular piece of paper, fine. If you have a formatted template of a tree, fine. Whatever you want. But we're going to start at the bottom of the page and work our way up, because I'm going to start with the roots, and ultimately I'm going to get to leaves and stuff, at the top of the tree, right? So if we start at the bottom of the tree and we start with the roots, I'm going to ask you to think about, where do you come from? The places, the people, the ideas, etc. Culture, books, religion, language, ancestry, social movements. Those have taught you the most in your life. Where do you come from? Who are your people? Again, put on, you're only going to, if you think about this as an activity and you're engaging with other folks, you You want to give them some protections around, just put on here what you're comfortable with. Nothing that you're uncomfortable with sharing. Imagine you were doing this in a group activity. We were in a conference room and there were 30 or 40, we have around 50 people here, right? So imagine everyone's doing one and you're going to share it. So there's certain things you're going to share and certain things you're not going to share. That's what everybody does anyway. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to think about how would you reflect your roots, where you come from, your people. Give you a couple more minutes on the roots and we'll go to the next area. So if you're still on roots, that's okay. This is kind of a self-paced activity. If you're ready, then let's go to the ground. And the ground is, just above the roots there, where you currently live and what you choose to do in your everyday life, your activity. How do you spend your time? That's your ground. If you take a look at your time on the average week, right? How do you spend your time? What are some of the things you do? So again, your roots are where you come from, your people, legacy, kind of cultural identity and history. Ground is how you spend your time, your activity. What do you choose to do? Again, if you're still on roots or on ground, that's fine. Some folks may be ready for the trunk. The trunk's what you give value to, what you hold as important: skills, abilities, qualities, characteristics, commitments, and purposes. It's the trunk of your tree, right? What do you give value to? What do you hold as important? I'll give you another minute or so on trunk. Again, roots, where you come from, history, legacy; ground, how you spend your time, your activity. Trunk, what do you give value to? What do you hold as important? Skills, abilities, qualities, characteristics, commitments, and purposes. All right. So, if again, wherever you are, it's fine. That's where you are. The next thing are the branches. The branches are your hopes, dreams, and wishes. Where would you like your life to be heading? What are you reaching for? What are you striving for? What do you hope for? Right? Your branches. Where would you like your life to be heading? Give you another minute or so. Again, the trunk is what do you give value to? What do you hold as important? Skills, abilities, qualities, characteristics, commitments, and purposes. And the branches are hopes, dreams, and wishes for you or for others. Where would you like your life to be heading? What are you reaching for? What are you striving for? So next are the leaves. And the leaves are the people who are important to you. They could be alive or deceased. It could include people you've never met, but have contributed to your life in important ways. Authors, artists, activists, historical figures. Who are your people? Another way to think about it is, who are some of the people that are helping you achieve your dreams? So your leaves are on your branches, right? Who's helping? Who's connected to those branches? So again, your branches are your hopes, dreams, and wishes. Where would you like your life to be heading? The leaves are the people who are important to you. A couple more left. First one is fruits. The legacies and gifts we've received, such as patience, love, education. So all this investment, all this history has borne fruit for us, right? What are your fruits? So again, the leaves are the people that are important to you. including people you've never met but have made a contribution to your life. And the fruits of the legacies and gifts we've received. So all this investment and all this history that you've just described, how's that paid off and bearing fruit? And then finally, fruit pays off with the deliverance of seeds. It's actually the purpose of fruit. So the seeds are, the legacies are gifts we want to leave behind, give to others. What are you trying to leave behind? I'll give you another minute or so and then we'll wrap this up. Again, you'll get a description of all these items in a handout. And so some folks, after they go through the activity, they say, I want to spend more time on it. So you'll be able to have the instructions at hand. What I want to shift to is I want to give you a chance to process this with other people. So Krista's going to pop you into little breakouts. I actually have a slide that says a little bit more about this. There's two ways to kind of inquire around these around this activity or experience. You know, sort of like what are the events and circumstances and the time and people that are connected to the story of folks' tree. And then also the intentional of the identity, landscape of identity, intentional understandings and what people attribute value to, what you've learned and realized along the way, right? There's so you can ask different kinds of questions about this, and I'll give you more material around that. But what I'd like you to first start with is, what was your experience in doing this? Like, well, how did it feel? You know, what did it bring up for you? And again, only share what you're comfortable with. And then, you know, if there's enough time, I'm going to make sure you all get to that. Again, Chris is going to pop you into groups of 3. We'll give you about 14, 15 minutes on that. So, and then if you have enough time to ask a question or two about other people's tree, and I don't know if you'll be able to hold it up to the camera or describe it, but see if you can come up with a question that helps people say a little bit more about themselves in ways that are comfortable for them. So sort of the social and relational history on the tree, and see if you can get to an identity question and an action question. You may not have enough time. Don't worry about that, but that would be something to think about as you're practicing it and trying to apply it. So anyway, Krista, why don't you go ahead and pop them into groups of 3 for breakouts.
Will do. All right. I'm sending the questions right now because if I send them after you leave,
Right.
you will not see them. So ask questions about 2 landscapes.
One of the tricks of the experience.
Yep. All right. Buckle up. You're going in.
My Zoom froze, so I didn't get put in the breakout room.
Gotcha. I'll fix that. All right. Let's see. I'm just seeing who has fewer people. Okay.
Hi, I got popped into a room, and when I tried to get out of the room, it popped me out of the whole
Got it.
thing. So
Got it. All right. Let me pause this recording.
It's a little
Yeah.
rude.
you're getting called out if that happens.
It's that old internet out. Oh, my bandwidth is terrible.
Yeah, I know. There's
Technical
only so many
problem.
times you can pull that one. But it's funny, with the multiple names, I have a group of about 12 people I'm doing in one of the ongoing pieces of work I'm doing, and 3 of them are named Crystal, and they work in 2 different places. And so I'm like, Crystal, and they're like, I was like, oh yeah, okay, it's Crystal O, Crystal S. No, but there's 2 Crystal S's. So it's like, okay.
I think we're all back.
Okay, welcome back. We only have a few minutes before we kind of close up, and so I wanted to give you a chance to weigh in. What was your experience like in constructing the tree, and to have a conversation around it? Take a couple of comments, and I'll give you some stories associated with it. And Krista's going to launch the eval before we close. So that's the path. And the next time we meet will be in 2 weeks, not next Friday, but 2 Fridays. Anyway, who'd like to share?
I can say some things for our group. We were really appreciating this as a gentle and strength-based way to meet with families. And I sort of admitted at first, I was thinking, well, this is a really good tool that I would imagine using with youth, but maybe not adults. But then I remembered that I am an adult and I kind of found it helpful. So I kind of ate my words there a little bit. And I was thinking, like, for some of our youth that are involved or have been in the system for a long time, that sometimes a genogram or for various reasons, sometimes a genogram itself can be painful because there's a lot of loss and maybe some
Right.
Shame and disappointment about what's a part of that picture. But this may be a tool that is just more holistic as to who's a part of this person's world. So I got to thinking about how it may fit into where we start with family finding. And then we can also supplement with, where do these leaves fit within other avenues, such as a genogram or an eco-map or circles of support. We talked in our group about really appreciating the fruits and seeds part of it, that sometimes people forget about the people that have passed that still have a big meaning and impact on our lives. And so this gives room for that here in a way that is probably not seen in other tools.
Yeah. Thanks, Tara. Just a couple of comments building off of what you were saying. The activity can be in its entirety, or you can just segment some questions out if you don't have a lot of time, right? But there's a particular area that somebody seems to be addressing and you want to learn more about it, and you can utilize one of the questions to further flesh that out. So I think that can be really helpful. We worked with all sorts of folks, and a lot of times people perceive that, the probation for, when we're contracting with probation agencies, they don't, they're into law enforcement, they don't want to get this. I'm telling you, the probation people eat this stuff up because they get to have conversations and opportunities to share and to think about it differently. And Mike was working with a group in Minnesota, and they did it. And then the next time he checked in with them, they posted their tree in their cubicle where they were interviewing young people. This is all pre-COVID. And we're going to have to say that for a long time. This is always pre-COVID. Anyway, so the young people started asking them questions about their tree. And so they started seeing the officers as people rather than as somebody that they had to please or some mythical kind of system head. And so as they had the conversations, that opened up space for the officers to ask the young people and for them to answer more. So the relationship deepened and thickened as a result of just sharing. And obviously you're not sharing all the things that you don't want to share, but it was really helpful and instructive in those kind of ways. So, Jesus, 10:57. That was one comment, Krista. Go ahead and launch the thing, and somebody else who's got.
Bob, there is one question in the chat.
I saw a question.
Also.
Yeah.
So as a group, there was one group that was wondering when this tool gets used.
In one of the places, it's another probation agency that I'm working with. They're making it part of their assessment. Like everyone's doing a tree. Like that's what they do. I've seen it used, if you think holistically across an entire organization, I've seen it used in a myriad of ways, part of which is just relationship development and engagement. I've seen it used with siblings together who haven't necessarily lived together, so they can tell their stories, or they can do different trees but then reflect different experiences. I've seen it used with adults to get a better sense of their past and who they're connected to. I've seen it used in families where it's a whole family activity. Some of the workforce has taken it back to their family because they wanted to have those conversations, and they felt like the questions laid the foundation to help share some of their story that they've had difficulty in other kind of ways doing it. I think you have lots of opportunities to kind of explore. There's not like one right way or wrong way to do this. I've seen siblings as young as 6 and 7 be able to do this. They might not get some of the conceptual history stuff, but they can certainly attend to some of the questions. I think, it's probably 9, 10, 11 is going to be where you're going to get a thicker, richer description, but I've seen younger people be involved with this and feel like they got something out of it. It's just another way to tell their story. That's what we're trying to get young people to do. Tell their story. Or adults, if you're working with adults directly. That's a good question. So we'll send you supportive materials that further describe this, that reference it, all that sort of thing.
Perfect. It sounds like the link isn't working for the survey right now. So I'm going to get a different link and we're going to send it in an email right afterwards.
Okay.
So thanks for giving that a shot. So I knew that right off the bat. Appreciate it.
Live and learn. That's what we're doing all the time here. All right, everyone. It's about the top of the hour. Have a great weekend. It's nice to see you again, and look forward to 2 more weeks.
Yep.
We'll get back
Thank
together.
you.
Next week.
All right.
Thank you.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
The
Nice
18.
job.
Thoughts?
Hey, Barb.
I'm muted.
Barb, how was your breakout